We did it. We did it. We did it. Yeah. That is so amazing. It happened. It's sort of like City Hall. Everybody talks over me. I'm getting used to this. I'm Hillary Bryant. I am the mayor of the city of Santa Cruz, so I am used to people talking. I'm also a proud Banana Slug and a graduate of Porter College. And I'd like to thank you all for finding your seats and being here this evening. Welcome. We are very glad you're here.
And I'm Zach Friend, and I also receive narrative evaluations from this fine institution. All right. And I guarantee you I never thought I'd be standing up here talking to you tonight. I'm a member of the County Board of Supervisors in the 2nd District, also a Porter College graduate. And we're excited to give you guys some information. One, we're going to be brief. Fred, thank you. That's Fred's cue to clap. And two, just to give you a quick overview, which is that we're about to start dinner, and you're going to have a lovely dinner, and then we're going to come back for the program after dinner actually occurs once you've had plenty to drink so that everything we say sounds profound. How does that sound? All right. So enjoy your dinner. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.
So I won't take it personally that you quieted down for the dancers a lot better than you quieted down for Zach and I, but another round of applause for the dancers. Weren't they wonderful? So again, thank you all for being here. We have a great evening in store for you. I know I'm sounding very profound now, so I appreciate your attention. You know, we're not the only group on campus tonight raising funds. We also have students just across over at Stevenson doing what's called the Slug Fest, and there are students actually raising funds for other student scholarships. It's called Slug to Slug, so it's pretty amazing. Tonight is the 10th annual Scholarship Benefit Dinner, and as a special treat tonight, we're here raising funds. Supervisor Friend has generously offered for every $1,000 we raise this evening, he's going to share some of his narrative evaluations with all of you. So, with that in mind, I'm figuring we're going to have a great night. But seriously, we do have a very generous donor who has offered to match anything we raise this evening with $50,000. So we are really, really appreciative of all of you being here. And there's supposed to be some students out there. Do we have any students out there with iPads? There are some students. Students wave, students wave. They are here to collect any donation that you'd like to give. And again, Supervisor Friend's narrative evaluations are probably pretty fascinating. So with that in mind, waving students are going to be circulating around the room, and they are happy to come to your table and take your pledges. We have an exciting program this evening. We'll be hearing from the Chancellor, the Executive Vice Chancellor, 2 alumni, and a current student. Over the past 10 years, you have all helped raise over $23 million for scholarships, so thank you for that. The statistics are amazing. Over 8,000 people have given to scholarships, and every year you give, and it makes such a difference because the need every year is greater and greater. In the past 10 years since this benefit has started, tuition has tripled. And the need is 70% of our students are now having some sort of financial aid for them. So from an institution that really was founded under the premise of being free education for all of our students, times have changed, and we are here to support the students because the education they're receiving at UC Santa Cruz is tremendous. I just think about my time here and the cost of tuition going up and what a difference that made in my education. I had to go get a job. It made it stressful to think of graduating in 4 years, and now that pressure is even greater. But what we're producing here at UC Santa Cruz is not just students that go off into the world and do great things, but we're producing people like myself, like Supervisor Friend, people that go to this school, invest in the community, and then stay in our community and give back. And it really is more than just an education, but it's a commitment to our city and all the great things that Santa Cruz has to offer. And for that, it's an education without value. So again, we're here tonight to ask you to give and give generously. Our students need the funds, and the need is just so great, and it is our responsibility to help educate those students for the future. And as somebody who received one of the best educations in the world from UC Santa Cruz, I am honored to be here this evening to ask you to do that. The other great thing that I get to do tonight is to introduce our Chancellor. Chancellor George Blumenthal is a brilliant man. He has awards and accolades, and he has done so much for this university. But I have to tell you, in the past couple of weeks, those of you who are from Santa Cruz know that it has been a tremendously stressful and trying time. And it's during those times that you realize the importance of being able to have a conversation with the university that's a positive one. Years ago, that was not the case, and we've really made efforts to change that. And I cannot tell you how thankful I have been in the past few weeks to be able to pick up the phone, call the Chancellor's office, and have a thoughtful, receptive voice on the other end of that line. He is not just an educational leader, but he is a community leader, and we are so thankful to have him in our community, participating time and time again in all the needs and really going out and being willing to have a conversation and be a community member, not just the leader on campus. And with that, I hope that you will welcome Chancellor George Blumenthal.
You know, it's really hard to live up to an introduction like that. But as you can tell, I'm trying to raise the level of this discourse. It's really hard to believe that it's actually been 10 years since our first scholarship benefit dinner. This event has been embraced so warmly. In fact, this year we sold out in record time, and I want to thank you all for your support. You know, we have come a long way. My wife, Kelly, who's here, was here. I've pointed to the wrong wife. My wife, Kelly, and I were just discussing what happened 10 years ago when Marcy Greenwood held the first scholarship benefit dinner, and she regarded it as quite a risk. In fact, she once told me she was in fear that it would be known as Greenwood's Folly. But as you heard from Hillary, we've raised a lot of money over these last 10 years, and that's a real tribute to the community. And I want to thank all of you for your support. I also want to thank our sponsors, the Alumni Association, Victory Automotive, and the Seaside Company. Thank you all. And you know, it's really great to see so many students here tonight. I mean, that is what it's all about. But I know that they're here tonight because of the generosity of the Alumni Association and many of you who have purchased tickets specifically for students, and I want to thank you for that as well. And I also want to thank the volunteer committee that really put this program together. And they include, and when I call your name, please stand up. I think we should acknowledge each of you. That committee includes Brandon Allgood. Please stand up, Brandon. Tom Canfield. Sarah Clarenbach, Jeff Krakalici, David Doche, Rachel Goodman, Edison Jensen, Santa Cruz County Treasurer Fred Keeley, Vance Landis Carey, and William Au. And All of this committee was led by committee co-chairs, Santa Cruz Mayor Hillary Bryant and Santa Cruz County Supervisor Zach Friend. Thank you. You know, tonight is about students and the extraordinary education that our students receive at UC Santa Cruz. Our commitment to students dates back to the founding of the campus. Dean McHenry and others envisioned a public university that combines the depth and rigor of a University of California campus with the personalized interactive experience of a small liberal arts college. We've stayed true to that vision, even as we've grown and matured into a modern, dynamic campus. Students today discover themselves in the college communities. The colleges are like launching pads, and our students are taking off from there. More than 50% of our incoming frosh last fall were first-generation students, students whose parents did not earn a four-year college degree, and those students will thrive in our colleges. And our faculty are eager to work with undergraduates, both inside and outside of the classroom. Our students dive into experiential learning, internships, field studies, and other hands-on learning opportunities. These activities really complement classroom learning. And all of this adds up to a one-of-a-kind student experience. That's part of why we were just ranked one of the best universities in the world under the age of 50. In fact, one of only 2 United States universities to make the top 10 list. And of course, part of the richness of what we offer students stems from the interplay of the student experience and the outstanding research programs that we have. Our students learn from and work side by side with great minds. So here's one example. I just had the extraordinary opportunity to accompany astronomer and professor Sandy Faber to the White House, where she accepted the National Medal of Science from President Obama. To put it into context, this is the highest honor that our government gives to any scientist. It was a memorable day for Sandy. It was a memorable day for me, but it was even more significant for the campus because it represents an extraordinary level of external recognition of our excellence as a campus and as a university. Here's another example. Our work in genomics, under the leadership of bioinformatics visionary David Hausler, continues to lead the field. We're harnessing the power of computers to decode the cancer genome, work that will enable us to identify the best treatments for cancer and other genetic diseases. And this work builds, of course, on our signature contribution to the Human Genome Project when we completed the sequencing of the human genome in the year 2000 and put that completed genome up on our website first. Now, of course, these are high-profile examples. But at UC Santa Cruz, outstanding research done with students isn't the exception. Rather, it's the rule of what we do. In the last 10 years, we've emerged as a research powerhouse. We're now consistently ranked among the best in the world for the impact of our research. According to Times Higher Education's World University Rankings, since 2010, UC Santa Cruz has climbed from 4th to 3rd to tied to 2nd in the world for research influence. And for a campus of our size, that's simply unheard of. Our faculty make lasting contributions that shape and transform their disciplines in such fields as astronomy, linguistics, genomics, feminist studies, Latin American and Latino studies, computer gaming, and digital arts. We welcome this external recognition because it reinforces what has always been true about UC Santa Cruz. On our campus, there is no either-or choice between a personalized, well-rounded college experience and the opportunity to learn from those who are creating knowledge. We continue to offer the best of the small liberal arts college model and the experiences available only at a major research university. External recognition, of course, helps us share our story with prospective students and with faculty. Perhaps this has something to do with the record number of applications that we received this year. We received 46,000 applicants for admission. That's nearly double the 24,000 applications that we received 10 years ago. External recognition also speaks to prospective graduate students, an important constituency that contributes to our leadership in research and scholarly pursuits and enhances what we offer to our undergraduates as well. And recognition reinforces the value of the degrees held by our alumni all over the world. Tonight, we get to hear from a UC Santa Cruz graduate who credits his education with catapulting his career in television. And we're talking about the hottest, most critically acclaimed programs on the air. Think Mad Men and Weeds. Kevin Beggs is president of the Lionsgate Television Group. Lionsgate is known for taking bold risks and producing influential programming. Kevin Beggs graduated from Porter College in 1989 with a degree in politics and theater arts. He's a member of the Arts Dean's Leadership Board and a vocal advocate for the campus and for our alumni. We're lucky to have him with us tonight. Please join me in welcoming Kevin Beggs.
Thank you. Before I begin, let me thank Chancellor Blumenthal, Campus Provost Galloway, Dean Yeager, the Alumni Association, the Foundation Board, and everyone who worked so hard to make tonight happen. It's truly a privilege to be part of this 10th anniversary event, and I'm looking forward to the 20th. I am a banana slug. I arrived at Porter College in the fall of 1985, and like many new Santa Cruz undergraduates, I was in for a bit of a culture shock. Evaluations instead of grades, excessive and often public nudity, the Grateful Dead as a lifestyle, the Praying Mantis Brigade, co-ed bathrooms. As worldly as I thought I was, having grown up shuttling between my dad's hippie commune in Marin County and my mom's home in the Oakland Hills, nothing could have prepared me for my college experience. I was out of my comfort zone, and I was loving every minute of it. My academic path was geared toward politics, but my love of drama pushed me to also study theater arts. I was attending 8 a.m. political theory classes with Jack Shar and rehearsing plays until midnight. Who had time for sleep? Happily, despite the long hours and heavy class load, faculty in both departments not only embraced my double major, but encouraged it. Thank you. The professors in politics tasked us with studying the masters: Plato, Socrates, Locke, Hobbes, Rousseau, Machiavelli, and Arendt. But they also encouraged us to question conventional wisdom. In theater arts, we concentrated on story and character, and also read master playwrights: Shakespeare, Wilde, O'Neill, Miller, Albee, Mamet, and more. What I could not have known then was that both these disciplines would contribute greatly to my professional growth. And after graduating, I was torn between applying for graduate school or trying my luck at breaking into film and television. Choosing my heart over my head, I moved to Los Angeles, but with no connections in the business, it was not easy. Temping at Arrowhead Water is not a sustainable career. A friend told me about substitute teaching. I was a writing tutor in my final year here at Santa Cruz, so I thought, how hard could that be? Second major culture shock. I did not know what I was doing. And the 37 third and fourth graders that looked up at me after having vanquished the previous teacher who left the profession could smell my fear a lunch line away. But all those years, holding a pike for Shakespeare Santa Cruz and treading the boards as an actor paid off because I acted the part of a teacher long enough to really learn how to teach. I connected with those kids at Jefferson Elementary School. Some of them may have already gone to Santa Cruz. As I neared the end of my second year of teaching, my film and TV job search went into overdrive. It was daunting. Multiple interviews ended the same way. As a teacher and humanities graduate, you just don't have the experience needed for the complex world of film and television. I soldiered on, convinced that if I could get my foot in the door, they would learn that I had more to offer than just a paper degree. I was a UCSC graduate. I could innovate, create, and accomplish. Finally, a producer took pity on me because he had young kids, and the idea of me being a teacher appealed to him. My job, cost control assistant. My first assignment, reduce the overusage of Federal Express on a low-cost reality series for the ABC network. This was such a far cry from my Spielbergian fantasy of directing a major motion picture by age 25. But this is where my UC Santa Cruz training kicked in. That line producer never knew what he was in for. I got to know every employee in the production company, and I had the philosophical conversation. Why FedEx? What does it mean? How might one reify FedEx? I went office to office, executives, secretaries, prop masters, sound engineers, writers, researchers, even the Teamsters, and asked what they did for the company and why they needed this service. What I learned they needed is information fast. And this was in the pre-internet era. I let them know that they could use one FedEx a day, and that the priority mail service from the readily available US Postal Service was much cheaper and only a day or two slower for their other packages. I turned the tide on expensive shipping, and the show got back on budget. I also learned how a television series works from soup to nuts. Now, this didn't work out so well for the post office. As you know, they're bankrupt, and FedEx is thriving, but it was a step up for me career-wise. My reward for a job well done was to be fired from accounting and hired on the set as a set production assistant the same day. Never mind the 18-hour days, the sub-minimum wage earnings, the hunger, the cold, the sensory deprivation, working with actors. I was in. And that job led to another on a weekly drama. Now, unlike a reality program, a scripted television series is built entirely around the writers, several of whom are generally credited as executive producers, and they and a team of fellow writers literally have to feed a hungry beast called the shooting schedule to make 22 episodes a year without shutting down. The pace is incredible, and the assistants are the grease between the wheels, keeping them going with a patchwork quilt of support that ranges from picking up dry cleaning to covering up clandestine affairs. Confidentiality is sacred. And I was assigned to the most senior of the executive producers on this show. I was responsible for phones, fax, a new technology, organizing the writers' meetings, and communicating with the rest of the company. But nothing was more important than taking dictation from this producer. He was an old school Hollywood titan. He sat me at the desk and began a 4-page run-on sentence that never ended. I was terrified of stopping or correcting him at any place along the way. He had dropped out of college to make biker films in the late 60s, so grammar was not his strong suit, but he was a great salesman. So I handed the document back just as he had spoken it. A horrible look came over his face and a scowl, and he said, "You know, it was a good first day until now. I don't think this is going to work out. This isn't anything like what I told you, and we're going to have to probably part ways." And I said, wait, don't fire me yet. Give me a few minutes with the document. And then, while he rolled phone calls, I gave it a massive page 1 rewrite. Drawing on my politics and theater arts experience, I wrote it the way I would have as a very educated UC Santa Cruz alum. I handed it back, he read it, no more scowl, and said, "Now that's exactly what I said." That job lasted 8 years. He wouldn't let me leave. I did every piece of correspondence, including divorces, therapy. It was crazy. And we are steadfast friends. He became my mentor in the business and really taught me everything he knew, which was a lot. And today, happily enough, he's learned how to type himself and sends me very long emails, which I assume somebody is helping him with. From that series, I had the opportunity to join a small startup film and TV company called Lionsgate. It was 1998. The IPO market was still vibrant, and this tiny Canadian company was branching out to the US. Now, if working on a series for 8 years is the TV equivalent of graduate school, then my 15 years at Lionsgate can be compared to earning a doctorate in entertainment. I began as the person in charge of scripted drama, eventually adding long-form comedy and alternative programming, and the company has grown through acquisitions with features like American Psycho, Crash, The Hunger Games, Precious, and Twilight. And in my TV area, we've been part of the cable revolution with critically acclaimed series like Weeds, Mad Men, Nurse Jackie, Boss, and the newest ABC hit, Nashville. TV revenues in my first year at the company were $1 million. This year, they'll hit 350. And all along the way, I have tapped into my unique UC Santa Cruz blend of politics and theater arts. Story, personalities, strategy, the long game. It's everything I learned in Richard II, combined with everything I learned from Machiavelli's The Prince. Hollywood is not for the faint of heart, and I know I could have never navigated it without my UC Santa Cruz education. Recently, I read a Wall Street Journal article suggesting that universities should be more accountable by publishing starting salaries associated with every major. I think it's the absolute wrong message. With rare exceptions, the UC Santa Cruz student is not going to be setting any salary records right after graduation. But the banana slug will eventually always beat the hare. Because we are thinkers. And because we think, we need a career that goes beyond dollar signs. Our work must have meaning. At the Stevenson commencement ceremonies way back in 1988, the keynote speaker asserted that the undergraduate degrees they were handing out that day were union cards to the middle class. And I think for the post-war era, up until the recent fiscal crisis, that may have been true. But in a world in which the US is no longer the dominant global superpower, in which growth is the exception, not the rule, linking undergraduate education to salary or class advancement isn't the only metric by which we should judge success. I submit to you today that the UC Santa Cruz graduate represents a new class, the thinking class. And for that, we should both be grateful and inspired, because the university continues to develop the best of the thinking class. And as an executive with direct responsibility for an operating division at a publicly traded company, with employees and contract artists numbering in the hundreds at any given time of the year, the kind of talent I look for is from the thinking class, and UCSC students are the cream of the crop. They may present a little differently. I like to joke about Santa Cruz graduates never quite catching up to contemporary business attire with their Birkenstocks and mismatched belts and shirts. But when it's really time to innovate, rethink, and creatively engage, there are none better. And for years, I was employing my Santa Cruz skill sets without further connection to the university. I hadn't returned to campus, and although I kept a strong bond with many of my fellow alums, it wasn't until I got a call from Leslie Brander on behalf of Dean Yeager, inviting me to meet with him, that things came full circle. David took the time to sit with me and share his vision of the arts at UC Santa Cruz. It's a compelling one, and among many facets of his master plan, the idea of connecting this city on a hill to the professional creative world really inspired me. I participated in a symposium here on campus 2 years ago, at which alumni shared their stories with faculty, staff, and students. Subsequently, I've had very strong Santa Cruz interns at Lionsgate, one who is here tonight, Alexa. And I have joined Dean Yeager's Arts Leadership Board, tasked with supporting his work, realizing the Institute for Arts and Sciences, and creating a branding campaign for the Arts Division. I joined because the values that David shares with the larger university community about excellence, leadership, social engagement, and art as an instrument of change are also my values. So why support scholarships at UC Santa Cruz? What is the impact of the thinking class in post-Empire America? Since its founding in 1965, UC Santa Cruz has upheld the progressive tradition of social responsibility, political activism, environmental stewardship, and above all, a sense of purpose. I believe the engaged citizen, the unconventional, restless thinkers among us are good for our world and good for Santa Cruz in general and this community. I recently met with a very successful film director. He was pitching me a project, and he was explaining that he was writing and directing 3 movies simultaneously. So I stopped him and I said, how is it possible that you could have time to do this television project when you're doing all of these movie projects? And he thought about it for a moment, and he said, I have an unquiet mind. I have an unquiet mind. I really had to think about what he said. 5 words, but I think they sum up for me why UC Santa Cruz needs your help now more than ever. Let this great university be the home of unquiet minds. And let's celebrate as those same minds move into the workplace, into our local communities, and beyond as ambassadors of an institution that itself is never satisfied with the status quo. And speaking of unquiet minds, once that phrase rattled around in my brain for a while, I realized I suffer from the same problem. I can't function unless I'm multitasking. I'm stuck to my BlackBerry, I'm rolling calls, I'm driving, it's a hazard. This is really good for the television business and has been helpful in my career. It's disastrous for my wife and children who roll their eyes every time I take another call, and it's yet another reason why Amazon is so profitable. I have 12 unfinished books on my Kindle open right now, 3 of which I want to mention. The Steve Jobs and Albert Einstein biographies from Walter Isaacson, and a compelling new book about the free speech movement entitled Subversives, the FBI's War on Student Radicals and Reagan's Rise to Power by Seth Rosenfeld. Now, reading multiple books is hazardous for most, but for me, it's actually quite interesting. You start to develop themes that you would never expect. I remember reading a Woody Allen joke about reading Dostoevsky and Weight Watchers on the same plane trip. I never forgot about that. Started with, I'm fat. I'm miserably fat. I will be fat forever, something along those lines. So these 3 books drew some themes for me as well. As I was marveling at the accomplishments of Steve Jobs and Albert Einstein and the courage of the free speech movement leaders at Cal, the common thread became clear. They're all misfits. Unconventional, impudent, brash, impulsive, rebellious, untamed, and ultimately unbroken. To me, they epitomize the UC Santa Cruz ethos. Jobs was a dropout from Reed. Einstein dubbed lazy by all of his professors. The Berkeley radicals were all expelled, and yet they changed our world. And every one of them would have flourished at UC Santa Cruz. When I think about the power of scholarship funding, what you all do tonight, and how the Steve Jobs, Albert Einsteins, and free speech defenders of tomorrow might be incubated and educated here, I know why the Chancellor and his team have invited you tonight. We at UCSC are the best kept secret in higher education, and it's time for that to change. Your contributions can make the difference in a student's life and give him or her the kind of first-rate UC Santa Cruz education that so many of us enjoyed ourselves. Many students will not have the resources necessary to attend this great institution. Let's help them join and spread the word. It doesn't matter whether we work in the arts or the sciences or the humanities, we're all storytellers, and the story of UC Santa Cruz is one worth sharing. Let's make that possible, one unquiet mind at a time. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kevin, for that amazing speech. And I was trying to think about how to honor some of the work that you've done in your professional life here. And my wife said the best way to do it would be to wear a Mad Men suit. So for you, images are stronger than words anyway. And I think what's interesting about what he said are the parallels of the experiences that we had. Nothing will really open up your mind more than being a Porter student during first rain or having co-ed bathrooms. Those were life-changing moments for me too, and that's probably why I ended up in politics. Because once you've seen that, you've pretty much seen it all, actually. When I was here, I thought I had a lot of the answers, and I actually studied history, took some classes from some amazing professors, some of whom have since retired, like Bruce Levine, and some politics classes from people like Dan Worrells, who are still here. And what's really amazing about it is that UC Santa Cruz has done a really remarkable thing in the sense of it sets you up in the classics, but also forces you to have a practical sense to everything. How does education relate to today? How does it relate to the real world? And ultimately, how can you impact somebody's life with what you're doing? The decisions we make even in politics, as some of the elected officials here know, they're not just decisions, they have impacts on people's lives. And I think that one of the threads that goes through all of the UC Santa Cruz's teachings, and embodied by the administration, embodied by the professors, is the fact that you have to have some sort of social impact. You have to create something that contributes more to the world, and that the world is larger than just yourself. And one of the person that I get to introduce tonight really embodies this. Before I got into the elected world, for the last decade I worked for the Santa Cruz Police Department. And I tell you what, when you work in law enforcement, you definitely see people that are at their sort of the most difficult time of their life. And I had the real pleasure of working with Allison Galloway, who I'm going to introduce tonight. She is one of the real leaders in her field, in forensic science. And I got to say that the things that she did for our community, working very quietly with our department, with the sheriff's office, truly impacted people's lives. The things that she did to help solve some of the crimes that we had, and the things that you don't see that occur behind the scenes, the work that Mayor Bryant and the Chancellor have had to deal with in the difficult times we've been having the last couple of weeks, there are people like Allison Galloway that are working behind the scenes to make sure that people's lives are made better in the world of law enforcement. We are so fortunate to have her here in our community. She is a world leader, getting recognized in Washington, D.C., just flew in actually this afternoon, receiving a very prestigious award for her work. These are the kinds of leaders, but as Kevin was saying, they're not out blowing their own horn. These are the leaders that are here in our community that are making a difference in people's lives each and every day. And so, Allison, I'd like to bring you up, and I'd like to have this community recognize you in the way that you deserve. Thank you for what you're doing for all of us.
wasn't expecting that. I just want to say that this campus has been a life changer for a lot of people, and university is a life changer for a lot of people. I came from a background of parents who did not have a lot of money. My father was out of work for a good bit of time when I was in graduate school and as a student at Berkeley. And I know what financial aid did for me. It let me get through school. It gave me the inspiration to go on to graduate school. And it eventually led here. I will say this place changed me a lot as well, because I certainly didn't plan to be in this position. And when I look around this campus, I can see the wonderful things that we can do for our students. This campus attracts the best students. We attract students who, as has been said before, sometimes don't fit in other places very well. And it's not because they're bad students, it's because they're brilliant students. But they don't always think the way we're supposed to think. What we're here for tonight, though, is to ensure that their financial ability is not a factor in what determines whether or not they can come to this campus. We have extraordinary experiences on this campus. They're available here, they're available in the classroom, they're available outside the classroom. Los Mexicas, that was the dance group here before, they have been practicing and working here for 40 years. And it's a student-run, student-led, faculty-supervised unit. These are the kinds of opportunities where students can learn not only great dance steps, but how to teach others and how to lead and organize. Opportunity is what defines the UCSC student experience. We have the colleges. These are small units, almost family-sized in some ways, but allows a student to come to an actual research university and experience all of that. As we've said before, we have access here to truly exceptional faculty. Students have the opportunity to create knowledge working with those faculty. And as importantly, they have the opportunity here to develop the leadership skills that they can take out when they go into the world and change that world, and change it for the better. UC has a Blue and Gold program which provides support, an extraordinary level of support, for students with family incomes below about $80,000. There is, however, a very wide, large gap between that amount and the families that can truly afford the tuition and the cost of education here. We need to have scholarships. We need scholarships that are need-based, because even in those lower income levels where students have support, we often see students who are also supporting their families, not their children, but their brothers and sisters. They're supporting families back home. They're working 2 and 3 jobs. When they do that, they can't be in classroom studying all the time. They can't take advantage of the opportunities that they have. We need merit-based scholarships because these are brilliant students. They truly do merit the support that you can provide. And quite frankly, we need emergency money. We traditionally go now about $60,000 a year in emergency funds, groceries, co-payments for going to the doctor, getting another pair of eyeglasses, the basics, the things that we would take for granted. These students need. We also have graduate students, a cohort that we're trying to grow. They need fellowships. We provide them some money, but much of the time they need the time to think. They need the time to work, to gather data, to write that up. And remember that graduate students are the scholarly life for our faculty, but they are also the people who challenge and mentor our undergraduates. If you wonder about the power of philanthropy and scholarships, I would like to introduce a video that will give us a little bit of that answer. And then after that video, we're going to hear from Autumn Johnson, who is a sophomore from Kresge. She's a double major in sociology and politics, a scholarship major, a scholarship recipient, and like me, she wants to pay it forward. So here's the video, and then it'll be autumn. Thank you.
It's incredible the difference 10 years can make. 10 years can be a very, very long time. And yet 10 years can feel as close as last night's sunset.
I was introduced to philanthropy by a housemate before I came to UC Santa Cruz. Every year he'd get all the solicitations and toss them into a basket, and then near the end of every year he'd lay them all out. In some ways it gave me the wrong message. It gave me the message that philanthropy involved giving beyond my means. He also wonderfully introduced me to the idea of what he called a Ben Franklin loan. If you know a person who's just down on their luck, probably just needs some money or something like that to get them through, lend them the money under the understanding that they don't owe it back to you, that this is a debt that they have to the world at large. So I moved out of that house and went to UC Santa Cruz, and actually in my first year there, I met another student. We studied together, and at one point near the end of a quarter, she actually ran out of money and was going to try and go 10 days without food in order to make it to the end of the quarter. What else would you do while you're a student? I decided that this was the beginning of the time to start paying that back. So I gave her enough money to get through about a week or two's of groceries, and she was all teary-eyed over it, but it was a nice start. When you see that you're touching someone's life and you're giving them the choice between the money to really do what their education can offer them, or to have them just go to school and finish up their 4-year degree, and you're giving them just enough extra money to make that difference, you've changed the world, and it's very, very infrequent that you get to change the world for so little money.
Well, when I first got to the school, I immediately noticed how friendly everyone was, just the energy everyone brings to the school, like when you're a slug. I don't think that I could achieve everything I want to achieve without the experiences, the knowledge, the degree, everything that I've received from UC Santa Cruz.
What I hear mostly from these students, while some of them say, I couldn't go to school without this money, far more often it's, I couldn't devote my time to my research. I would have to take a part-time job, and that would have prevented me from doing the research project. And that's the one thing that's unique to UC Santa Cruz that we should be helping the students pay for. And that is the ability to have the time to do research as an undergraduate.
When Dave spoke to us, he mentioned that philanthropy is not just for rich people, but anyone can give back on a scale that's appropriate to them.
It's very gratifying to me to bring people into the life of philanthropy. The students who learn about the Ben Franklin loan concept. We get to sit down, talk to each other, find out more about them, and most of them are intrigued. And when they realize that they can be philanthropic on a scale appropriate to their life, they smile. And the great part about it is that once they give that very first gift, they don't stop.
So I think that's going to apply to me in a lot of ways, whether it be a bag of groceries right now or in the future giving back to UC Santa Cruz. Why wouldn't I want to give back to the one place that I feel really comfortable, feel like home, and is giving me the life lessons that I really need to excel in life.
UC Santa Cruz changed my life. It changed, my wife went to school there, my daughter went to school there, all three of us were in the sciences. It was very natural to continue giving to UC Santa Cruz.
For the last 10 years, the Scholarship Benefit Dinner has helped to ensure that those who have earned their place continue to have the opportunity to attend here. Our story is about the shared experience that comes through giving. It's what brings us together now and will continue to unite us for the next 10 years. It's incredible the difference 10 years can make. Here's to the next 10 and many more.
Good evening. My name is Autumn Johnson. As I already stated, I'm a sophomore from Kresge College, and I'm double majoring in sociology and politics. I currently fundraise for student scholarships with Slug to Slug, a branch of the Alumni Association you guys have heard a little bit about. But Slug to Slug, we engage students in giving to support fellow students and really get philanthropy going around in the minds of our students. I also serve as an organizer for Kinetic Poetics Projects, an on-campus poetry slam collective. My experiences in these programs have allowed me to see that donations and scholarships really enhance a student's experience here at UCSC. I've always been told that with hard work, you could achieve anything that you set your mind to. As a 7-year-old with dreams of being a lawyer, those words ignited a spark within me. I began practicing introducing myself as Autumn Johnson Esquire, reading books on Thurgood Marshall and Sandra Day O'Connor, and premising comments with, "When I graduate college." A 7-year-old rarely thinks of money in quantities more than $5, so I never conceived that my parents, who I'd seen spend $20 without a wince, would not be able to afford something. As time passed, college fell from the forefront of my mind, but never completely left my thoughts. By my sophomore year in high school, I had joined AVID, or Advancement via Individual Determination, a college readiness club that allowed students to make sure they were on the right track towards college. Never forgetting that if I worked hard, I could achieve anything I set my mind to. I kept working. On our first trip to a university, UCLA to be specific, I received my first piece of college fee and tuition literature. Looking down and seeing a number with so many digits, my heart dropped. I was quite certain that neither of my parents would be able to manage that sum, and I began to think of alternative options to college, abandoning the mantra that had pushed me along so far. With hard work, anything is attainable. At this moment, it seemed to me that college was not attainable, and I'm ever so grateful for my high school's college and career counselor, Thelma Valverde, for pushing me through this crisis of doubt. She reassured me that financial aid and scholarships would be available for me, and with a little hard work, my college education could indeed be funded. My senior year in high school, I went on a college road trip up the coast of California. I had decided that for monetary reasons, I would go to a public university within the state of California, which wasn't so bad. With the prestige of the University of California and the beauty of our state, who could resist staying here for a little longer? On the last day of our trip, feeling rather disappointed at the schools I'd seen, unable to find my niche, I began to rethink my future. I again reconsidered abandoning the hard work that I'd put in thus far, inside and outside the classroom, the hours studying, volunteering, and starting organizations with my high school. But there was one more stop before I headed home: the University of California, Santa Cruz, a mysterious school up in the woods that I'd never seen and rarely heard of. I was familiar with the city of Santa Cruz due to a couple of trips to Henry Cowell State Park, a few visits to the boardwalks, and countless viewings of Lost Boys as a preteen. But the school itself was a complete mystery to me. As we approached the west entrance, I spotted a deer feeding on a pile of apples that was obviously placed there by people. I began regaining hope as we drove down McLaughlin, then walked through the trees, seeing the smiling faces, the variety of people, and experiencing the colloquial feeling of contentment. People dressed kind of weird here, but I kind of liked it. As I'd done at age 7, I stubbornly set my mind on this path. The beautiful scenery, the humility, and the outright kindness that I had experienced in just 2 hours at this place had reignited that spark within. In March of 2011, the results were in. The suspense built up as I logged onto the UCSC website. It was midnight. I hadn't slept yet, and the delirium helped fuel the nerves I was feeling. The relatively new system that allowed students to check their admissions as well as their financial aid distribution online caused myself and many other students to lay awake at night, anticipating the clock striking 12. When the time came to log in, I took a deep breath and typed in that username and password I was given by the UCSC school. I opened the page. Congratulations, the only word that I saw. I was ecstatic. I told my mom that I would wake her when the results were in, but I decided that I should look at the financial aid before. But her motherly instinct was too strong, and before I even finished reading the letter, she was in my doorway with a smiling face, already aware of my admittance. She sat beside me on my bed, and I explained that if it were too expensive, I just wouldn't go. I would work and go to our community college and then transfer. She scoffed, and then told me to hold my horses and just open it. Isn't mother's intuition great? With the exception of a few small loans and work studies, scholarships would pay for me to achieve my dreams. So I'm here today, a second year at UCSC, fully immersed in academics, organizing for a slam poetry collective and fundraising for myself and other students, who frankly would not be here without them. Slug to Slug, whose taglines include student helping students, has given me the amazing opportunity to help give back. As touched upon earlier, alumni Dave Deshay introduced me to the idea of Ben Franklin loans, which are a form of pay it forward. The recipient is indebted, but not to the loanee, to other people, to someone else in need. Give that help to someone else as someone has helped you. I feel that every time that I go out and fundraise for Slug to Slug and student scholarships, I am in a way repaying all of you. So I thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be at this school and really find my niche. And I wanted to leave off with the saying that you guys have heard me say before. If you work hard, you can achieve anything that you want. This is not age, occupation, or endeavor specific. This can be applied to anything. So never stop working for what you want. And thank you for your contributions, your participation in my and thousands of other students' education. It really has allowed me to see the value of alumni support and philanthropy. So thank you again for having me and have a wonderful evening. Enjoy your time here and go Banana Slugs.
Thank you, Autumn. You are certainly going to achieve great things. You make us so proud. There is something so special about this university. I am the first in my family not to go to Dartmouth College. And I got up to the Porter Meadow and went, why would I want to go back to Hanover, New Hampshire when I can look at this view every day? And I never left. So you're stuck with me. But thank you, Autumn. We're so proud, and Allison for your comments. Really, philanthropy is changing lives, and it's changing lives of our students, and it's changing the lives of people in this community. So once again, I remind you, you really want to see Zach's narrative evaluations. We have, walking around the room one last time, our students with their iPads. So if you'd like to give tonight, please do. We really appreciate your generosity in just being here. So last but not least tonight, it's my honor and privilege to introduce Edison Jensen. Edison embodies so much of what we cherish about UC Santa Cruz. He graduated from Oaks College in 1986 with a degree in politics and went on to law school at Santa Clara University, and today practiced civil law right here in Santa Cruz. Under Edison's watchful eye, Salud para la Gente has expanded from a single clinic to a network of 12 locations throughout Watsonville and Santa Cruz. That includes 7 school-based clinics and an adult day health care clinic. He leveraged the sale of Watsonville Community Hospital to establish the Pajaro Valley Community Health Trust that serve the needs of the people throughout our community who pick and harvest the food that we have on our tables. And like Sandy Faber, he's recently met President Obama, who called him in personally to thank him for all of his advocacy on behalf of the Affordable Care Act. He's a true social justice hero living in our community. And with that, I'd like to welcome Edison Jensen to the stage.
Wow. First of all, I want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be up here, and I really want to thank the Chancellor. I had an opportunity to thank him for all his support, not only for this community, but for this university. You know, Hillary just mentioned that I got invited to the White House, and I have to tell you that that road to the White House started here locally. I grew up here in Zach's district in Aptos, and I grew up between the dividing line between North and South County. And when I was a child in first grade, when my dad, I was actually born in Colorado, but my dad moved my mom and my 3 brothers here from Colorado and plopped us right into Aptos. And me and my brothers, at that time, were probably the only Latinos in the school, except for some farm workers. And I remember the trip, the bus trip down San Andreas Road. You've all seen it if you live here. It takes you straight down to Watson, or through La Selva Beach, down through Watsonville. And I used to take the trip, ride the bus, and we would always go past some strawberry fields. And I'd always see these hunched figures in the fields early in the morning with the steam rising from their backs. Didn't matter what time of day it was. It could be hot, 100 degrees, it could be freezing, but the steam was always rising off their backs, and you could tell they worked from sunup to sundown. And I remember saying to myself, you know, this is an interesting place to be. You know, me and my brother's the only Latinos, but there were these farm worker children there as well, and they were different, or so I thought. And I remember them being treated poorly and saying to myself, I don't want to be treated like that. I'm not one of them. I'm someone else, or so I thought. And I remember experiencing the sting of prejudice and saying to myself, you know, this doesn't feel very good. I'm really no different. I live in Aptos. I like surfing, skateboarding. I'm no different. Well, society has a way of looking at you and saying, well, we think you're different. So I remember saying to myself, I got to do something about this. Because I became a bitter person with a chip on my shoulder. And I said to myself, I've got to figure out a way to deal with this. How am I going to do this? And I remember getting the opportunity to come to UC Santa Cruz, and that transformed my life. It was here that I learned that there were people just like me at this university that had the same thoughts, the same feelings, the same desires. And I said to myself, this is wonderful. But what I really learned from this university was a lot about resolve, about thinking big, about believing in myself and the power of doing good. And that's a very powerful thing. After I graduated here, and I got to tell you, I still have nightmares about coming up 2 classes short of graduation. In fact, I think I had one last month. And I almost didn't get into law school because of my evaluations. They didn't know how to calculate them into grades, but luckily at the last minute they were able to do that. Which brings me back to UC Santa Cruz again. After I graduated from law school, I was asked by a local judge to see if I couldn't be on a board of a medical clinic in Watsonville that served farm workers. At the time, it was a standalone clinic with maybe a $2 million budget. And I said, you know, I'll go check it out. And at the time, the chairman of that board was a UCSC professor by the name of Frank Talamantes. And if you know Frank, Frank's a big guy, he's a loud guy, he likes to drink, he likes to smoke, he likes to cuss. I was sitting out the door of this boardroom and they were trying to decide whether or not they wanted me on the board, and all I could hear was Frank yelling. And I said, you know, maybe this isn't it for me. And as I sat there, I thought back riding that bus through La Selva Beach, and I recall there was one student in class that I went to school with as a farm worker. It was about 2nd or 3rd grade. He invited me over to his house. And I thought I was going to go to a house, and I was wrong. There's a little Brussels sprout field right at the bottom of the hill on Estrella in La Selva Beach. And I went to his house after school. Into his house, it was 1 room, 6 people, a wood stove. It was abject poverty. And I remember at that age thinking to myself, I've never seen this before, and it had a profound effect on me. And I never forgot that. And the reason I never forgot that is because this individual used to come to school. He was in poor health. He had no access to health care, no dental work. He was always ill. And as a result, he was treated poorly. And as a result of that, he didn't do well in school. In fact, he turned into being the meanest kid in class, and he would get into fights all the time. And that was always in the back of my mind. So as I'm sitting out there in that boardroom, I got up to walk away because I didn't really think that I could do this. And just as I got up to walk away, the door opened and they said, "Come on in, Mr. Jensen." I went in there. I decided to enter the field of healthcare, and I had no experience running a medical clinic. But I had my experience at UCSC. I had that feeling that whatever I learned here, I could apply out in the real world. So I'm sitting there trying to learn healthcare. 1 month later, Frank Talamontes has a heart attack. They looked around the table and they said, who's going to be our leader? And they said, well, let's have that guy. He's a lawyer. He can be our leader. And I said to myself, I don't know about this. I don't know anything about healthcare. But I believe in the mission. I believe that these individuals who pick our food, put food on our table, work sun up to sundown, they deserve health care. And at the time, they had no access to health care, no access to competently or culturally competent health care. They would end up going to the emergency room. The Pajaro Valley is one of the most fertile valleys in the world. It is a billion-dollar industry. And as long as you're going to have crops that need to be hand-picked, you're going to need a large labor pool. And what was happening is you had a large pool of people who were untreated, who were sitting in class next to me sick. They had environmental disease, respiratory disease. There were women having children in the fields, absolutely no access to health care. I also learned here at the university that you really need to serve a cause greater than yourself. And that was something that I thought was very important. And I was going to make a change. I was going to make a difference. In the 13 years that I was a part of Salud para la Gente, we went from a standalone clinic to 12 locations. And one of the things that I also learned at this university was to think critically, to solve big, complex problems. And one of the things that I said that we were going to do is, we can't make these farm workers come to a clinic because they're working. They're not going to come from 9 to 5 because they're working from sun up to sundown. So I said, let's partner with the Pajaro Valley School District, of which I was a member. I grew up in the Pajaro Valley School District. And I said, we're going to bring these clinics to the school. We will build clinics in the school for these farm worker children. And today we have 7 school-based clinics in South County. In addition, we built a state-of-the-art dental clinic, the biggest dental clinic in the county, top-of-the-shelf, top-line dental clinic. In addition, one of the problems that we were having is that there were elderly people who had no place to go and didn't really want to be in a home laying there all day. So we developed an adult daycare center where they can come every day and do activities. These are the type of things that you don't achieve unless you attend a world-class university. And part of what I wanted to do was come back here and say thank you. Thank you, UCSC, for helping me become a better person. And actually, instead of being a big mouth with a chip on my shoulder, using that in a positive way. Going out in the community and helping those who can't help themselves. Using my law degree and the power of subpoena to make big things happen for people that have no advocates whatsoever. In another act of creativity, I became aware that Watsonville Community Hospital was going to be sold. It was a for-profit corporation, or it was a nonprofit corporation, and they were going to sell it to a big chain. So I went and looked at the corporation's code, and lo and behold, it said, hey, wait a minute. If a nonprofit sells to a for-profit, whatever the net proceeds are need to stay in the community. So I forced myself into the sale and got the community together and said, hey, listen, this hospital has had 100 years of nonprofit status. They've never paid taxes. That money needs to stay in this community. And I was able to negotiate with the state attorney general to set up a health trust with a corpus of $20 million. And we negotiated it so that this money would be used to help farm workers and farm worker children in the Pajaro Valley for health care. As we sit today, the Salud para la Gente, the medical clinic, is a $20 million operation. So those are huge projects that would not have been possible if I hadn't been able to go to this university. At the time that I left Salud, they were delivering 30 babies a month. That's a lot of babies. There's big problems in South County. That's disproportionate health care problems, high poverty, overcrowding. But these are the type of projects that this university has helped me create because of the type of values that this university engenders. At the time that all this is going on, and this was really important, at the time that this was going on, there were a lot of political changes in South County. A year before I graduated from UCSC, there was a Voting Rights Act case that was brought in Watsonville. For 100 years, no Latino had ever been elected to city council. 100 years. Even though, at the time, the majority of the population was Latino. I'm happy to say I have seated at my table the first Latina mayor in the history of Watsonville, Ana Ventura Ferris, a daughter of a farm worker. And sitting next to her is her sister, another daughter of a farm worker, who is a physician. Anna's also a lawyer. And sandwiched in between them is a UCSC student, Lillian Garcia, who hopes to one day become a lawyer and now has on each side of her someone that she can look up to. Lillian? The point I want to make here, too, is that you have to give children a chance to succeed. My entire work has been focused on making sure that children have access to health care, because if they have half a chance during their formative years, they can become doctors and lawyers, just like the people sitting at our table. Because one of the things that will happen if you don't give them access to health care and they don't get an education, a world-class education like UCSC, is they're going to end up going the wrong place. And as a lawyer, I'm down at the courthouse every week, and I see what happens to those individuals who don't get an education. They're wearing an orange jumpsuit, or they've got their Sunday best on while their whole family's in the hallway waiting to get sentenced. It's a choice between incarceration or education. One offers salvation, the other doesn't. So I want to close by sharing with you a quote that I learned while I was here. And it's really characterized my work in this community. Because I've always stressed to my daughters that, find something to do that's greater than yourself. Give back to your community. Because an individual has not begun to live until he can rise above the narrow horizons of his particular individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Every person must decide at some point whether they will walk in the light of creative altruism or in the darkness of destructive selfishness. This is the judgment. Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? This university taught me to answer that question in a substantive way, doing things that have a material and profound effect on people's lives. And I want to thank this university for giving me that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Edison. Thanks, everyone, for being here tonight. It's really a reminder to us about the transformative power of education.
By the way, if you want to see my evaluations, just call me and I'll show them to you. It's really fun. You know, we can talk about the difference between what excellent and very good means, because it meant a lot. It apparently didn't make a difference to graduate school. Yeah. So on top of the money that was raised with all of you attending tonight, we've almost raised $10,000 additional dollars from all of you here tonight. So congratulations on that. Let's see if we can put ourselves over that top. There still are some student takers that are around the room who we can wave, and there will be stations set up when you go out the door here. So thank you all for coming tonight. Please do drive safely, and thank you for supporting UC Santa Cruz, which, as we can all agree, is a big part of our community. Thank you.